GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. All right, welcome anybody who might show up to watch this live. I'm going to try doing this live instead of as a separate video, just to see what happens. And if there's anybody that does show up and watches and has any questions, we can chat about that afterwards. But I'm going to attempt to present this video file. And how am I going to do that? I guess I got to just go find it. So let me take a second to go find where I put this thing. And I think I'm getting there. I'll try doing it this way. Maybe it's better to do it with the... All right, we're going to be taking a look at the German Kalashnikov bayonets. There's a bunch of them, and this is a pretty cool representation of them. Last version of this collection before it gets broken up. So I don't think I'm missing anything from the Germans that I can recollect. Maybe we'll remember something along the way. So I'm going to come over to the side here, and we'll start up at the top with the AK-47s. I've got 4 of them in the collection. This one is kind of unique, so we'll take a look at it last, I guess. So we'll start with this one, and we can see that there are a couple of different versions of the rivet type of thing. And I'm not 100% sure on the story, but we can see here that this one has a rivet, this one has a hole, no rivet in it. This one has a square deal, and this one also has square. So there might have been a 4th version of these, and I think if I understand it, if I'm remembering correctly, they started off with something like this, and then after their factory reworked, they'll notch it out, or it could just be a time thing. Otherwise, if we look at a typical German AK-47 style bayonet, first off, compared to the other bayonets, they're all black. They're also nice and clean, and they're paint. There's no bluing and there's no parkerization. It's just paint. They're nice and shiny. They're clean. Essentially, the bayonet looks exactly the same as all the other bayonets. The differences are that they're usually in great shape. I doubt they were ever used for anything other than parades. They've got the black panels on the grips. Their engravings will be kind of different. We can see on these samples that there's a couple of different types of engravings. However, they're all at the same place. Let me try to get that in focus a little better. So they're all in the same location on the bayonet, but they're all etched or engraved a little bit differently. Let's see what else. We've got the belt loop, or the hanger, is canvas, and it uses a snap. There's typically going to be some damage or some wear on the bayonet because it's a metal snap fixture there. No drain holes at all. Some of the Romanians some of the Germans, some of the Russians, and some of the Bulgarians have drain holes. These don't. And then this one is a little bit more wear. The hanger has been around the block. This last one, you can see it says made in Germany, Sturm. This is nylon, no use at all. In other words, it's never been used at all. It's a nicer material, a different kind of snap. Again, super nice, never been issued. More than likely sold aftermarket, potentially, from old inventory, but has the made in Germany as it, it's definitely a bayonet, but maybe sold as a knife. It's hard to know. So no serial number on this one, where the others have a serial number, and has the import sticker on it. Nothing that's engraved that says made in Germany, and no serial numbers otherwise. So probably a commercial version, and again, a different hanger. Going from the AK-47s, we go to the AKM Type 1s, And we have a couple of different versions again because they're German and they do things differently. So typically though, you're going to find the Germans are almost always black. So black handles, it is the same Bakelite material or whatever this is, that the same kind of plastic-like material that all the other Romanians and Russians and Poland and everybody else used. But Germany, all black, everything was blacked out. They have black insulators as well, but with wear and use, they can kind of get worn out. The black dye must have gone away. We can see that this one has a serial number here. This one, no serial number. This one, no serial number. Very similar in their scabbards. However, in the insulator, there's all these numbers on this one. Nothing on these two. Well, there's an 8 on this one and a 3, probably a mold mark. So this one has a mold mark and some kind of other number there. It's kind of interesting. There might be some variations. I never knew about too many variations in these type 1s. We can see that these 3 are fairly similar. They have a small loop in this gray pig leather, I think it was, for their hangers. They have a checker or a waffle type of button, and I think they're always like that. So again, Germans are all black, standard type 1s, a medium loop or a small loop, you could say, made out of the gray pig leather, and then some variations in the insulators. And I've only seen the one with the crazy a variation in the insulator, so your mileage may vary on that. Now we get transitionals. Not everybody has transitionals, but a transitional is a type 1 bayonet with this handle, but a type 2, AKM type 2 scabbard. And I've got 3 examples of German transitionals here. Now they're all kind of similar, just in different variations of use. But we can take a look at them and just some of the simple characteristics of the handles. They've got the waffle thing, but you can see these have a much squarer button, where some of the older ones a little less square. So I don't know if it's just less use or if it's a little different design or different mold perhaps. No serial numbers on any of these. We've got some numbers in the scabbards. These are like a different type of plastic, more like a fiberglass-ish type of material, and they've got some mold numbers that are different on each of them. And then we've got pretty much consistent everything else about them. Now there is some variation in the material here, not so much in the material I don't think, but in the use. So possibly exposed to heat or cold, and this one kind of blew out into a weird color pattern, or was mixed funny and it's linen, just didn't get blacked out. But since everything else German is so blacked out, I think this reacted or changed color. But it's something that we've kind of debated over the years with other collectors, if this is indeed a variation, because it is very consistent on there, or if it's a factor of age or abuse. I just noticed there are some serial numbers on the inside on these. So on these, some of these, there was a serial number here, but on the rest, the serial numbers are up inside where it would attach to the bayonet lug. Kind of interesting. And they're just engraved. So they might be arsenal numbers. It's hard to say. So let's see, we have to shift these like this. And next up will be, I'm not sure if the reds came first. I'd have to double check. So either the reds came first and then the blacks, or the blacks came first and then the reds. But next after the transitionals will be the AKM Type 2 German bayonets. So the Type 2, same scabbard with the kind of a fiberglass plastic material, and then the new scabbards. So same blade, new handle. So the same blade as before. And I should have showed these before, but it's a standard AKM Type 1 and Type 2 blade with the saw and the wire cutters. And it's kind of a standard lug on both the Type 1 scabbards and on the Type 2s. No big differences there like there is on the 47s. We still have the small size loop, but there were a version of these red ones with a very long loop. So let's take a look again. The loops had some variations, and it wasn't easy to acquire these, but that's a long loop red one and a short loop red one. Again, variation, intentional. Was it a different uniform? Not 100% sure on that. We can see that the button changes from the waffle to more like a bullseye with a screw in it, like a screw slot in it. Where do we got engraved? We've got the serial numbers engraved in the Bakelite and on the scabbard. And having ones that are matching, I guess, would be important to some people. It's difficult to see on both of these examples. I think they are matching, but they're so worn that it's kind of difficult to see. Now they do have a gray fabric wrist strap. I guess I forgot to mention that most Polish type 1s and type 2s that you find will have a fabric wrist strap on the with it. So if you find one without, that's actually kind of odd. Usually the German stuff had all their parts, like many German things. Every single part they could have, they used, or they incorporated into their design. So now the next one will be the type 2s, but now black handles. So we'll move this down a little bit. Move over to this side of the table. So they started, I think they started out with the reds and then they moved to black, but it might be reversed. It's been a while since I looked at it. But essentially the same bayonet, just with a black plastic handle, going back to what Germans like, an all black bayonet, except that they did stick with these small loop gray pigskins for the hangers. Now these are just a bunch of different examples. These turned out to be, like a lot of things, inexpensive for a long time. For a while, these things were like $7, so you'd get them here and there. You'd see them places, people would trade them to you. So there's quite a few of the standard type 2s, or there were a bunch of the standard type 2s out there. And although I did collect a bunch, I don't see very many variations. If there's variations, it's usually in things like the re-arsenals or re-supplies. So this one has a serial number that was etched, then crossed out, and then another serial number that was engraved. They'll have matching serial numbers on the handles. Same thing here, serial number scratched out, second serial number, first serial number scratched out, second serial number. They don't always have that, but that's the kind of things you have to find as variations on the Germans, because there's just not much variation in the bayonets themselves. Then, after Germans were sort of a unique story with their relationship with the Soviets and stuff, so after the Soviets had left and it was now Cold War era, or later on in the Cold War era, what we get is the G36 bayonet. So this is a bayonet that was designed for a G36, a different rifle, but it is an AK bayonet. They just repurposed it. So they added a new hanger, which uses more of like a modern pattern. I don't know what this is. It's not Alice and it's not Molly, so it's whatever the Europe's were using, I guess. It's made by something called Miltech, and it's got some plastic and some snap stuff. So this must be to incorporate to their load-bearing gear at the time. You still have a fast disconnect because there is the wire cutter on it. Insulated on the handle, so you have an electric wire cutter in the scabbard and in the bayonet itself. But this stays on your belt, and then you can quick detach it there. It also makes it nice and loose and noisy. So this was still 70s, 80s tech. We can see with this one that there's a spray of paint on it. I don't think did all of them have that? Yeah, I guess the Germans also have this. So the Russians had a spray of paint often, and it looks like the Germans do too, so that might be something to note, that their type 2s, not the type 1s, but the type 2s have a spray of paint, a black overspray at the base of the blade. So you can see that on these G36s, it's even more so. And I don't know if that's because they painted these things from red to black, which it could be. This could be red underneath of here. And this is just the overspray, because again, Germans are all about being blacked out. So let's see, this was modified in that they welded a bigger ring on it, is the main modification. So if you look at a standard AK bayonet here on the left, that's the standard size muzzle ring. This is a much larger one for the G36 rifle. So it had a bigger muzzle or something, and a bigger hole was needed. And you can literally see where it was cut off, and this is just welded on. So it's not a different bayonet or anything, it's just welded on. They added a different frog, and very rare. These were available in Tucson here. Got these from C&T. If you know who I'm talking about, you know what's up. And yeah, thanks to Walt for that, for letting me get these things. These are super rare. So if you're interested, this is 2 examples. My thing was to get 2 of everything so that I could take photographs for the website at the same time, front and back, or upside down and up, right side up. And yeah, so we've got a couple of examples here. Kind of neat. You don't see these too often. They still had the green canvas hanger. They were still engraved often. This one isn't. This one is. So that's pretty much the lineage of the Germans, except for probably the most interesting bayonet out there, one of the ones that gets a lot of people hooked, and that's the Rambo knife of bayonets, the survival bayonet, the special operations German bayonet. So this would be the KM87, came out in 1987, made for German special operations units in limited numbers, and then copied by Sewell, that same company we saw in one of these export bayonets, by Sewell, as a knife. And it is a bayonet, so let's take it out of here. It's the same in some ways, and it's totally different in other ways. So as we see, the scabbard is basically a normal German scabbard, but they've used different attachment points to use a much different hanger made out of nylon. It's got a weird kind of split system going on here so that they could hide the signal, piece of metal for signaling, and then a totally different handle. So we're going to remove it from the scabbard there and take a look at the handle first. And it's a different shape and everything, but it's also this way because you push in this little detent, or no, you don't use the detent, it's just there. You can unscrew the thing just like a survival knife. So I'm unscrewing the back of the handle, and what's happening is we're exposing a compartment. There's some place to kind of stow stuff. There's a piece of leather or something that's stowing some stuff in here. There's a little case that's going to pop out, and it's got your typical survival equipment and a little canister, and that all fits in there nice and clean. It's got a little window at the top so you can kind of check on what's in there, I guess. And very heavy, a very heavy connection here. This is 100% solid body, or plastic body on the handle, however, minus the little stud there where it's going to use to kind of stop spinning. So once I have it all in here, it lines up, and it is a bayonet. Going to the front, it is numbered in the blade, but you've got a different saw, a much more aggressive, useful saw. Got a much sharper knife. This is a knife. This isn't so much a bayonet, it's sharp. And then you've got 5 centimeters, I guess, on that side, and a protractor over here. So you can use that for determining height of mountains or time of day and just all kinds of stuff. And then you've got a sharpened upper here too. So very interesting adaptation of the bayonet. Now, you also notice that on the scabbard, they created a screwdriver tip here at the end, and they removed most of the mass. So if you look at a typical scabbard that has the wire cutter in it, there's all this stuff going on. They removed all that from the KM87 and just left you with the little edge for like using as a screwdriver or pry bar or something, and just a stud, the one stud that would normally be used to anchor this whole big anchor point, just the one stud. So probably intended to be used less often, and I'm not going to set it together, but much sharper edge on there as well. So the KM87, the Cadillac, the Rambo survival knife of AK-47 bayonets. I don't know if anyone ever saw these or if it was just sort of the concept that, you know, most AK bayonets kind of looked like they could be a survival knife or something. They looked like kind of a wicked Bowie knife. They're not really all that sharp, though. This one's actually a little sharp. Someone actually, I just happened to notice somebody actually sharpened this one, but normally they're not sharp. They're, you know, kind of designed to rip and tear and stuff. So this KM87 is just like the actual bayonet that everyone kind of assumed the rest of these are, but they never were. Germany's the only one that did anything like this. Of course, after the fact, there might be some one-offs, but these were actually produced, and they are available out there. Back in the day, they were the most expensive, the rarest, and the most unobtainable of all the bayonets. Definitely the prize of someone's collection. I knew a couple of people, I imagine they might still have them, that have multiples in their collection. A couple of times I was able to get mine next to Martin's, friends of mine who in the KCA, and there are variations. Martin's has a different material, a different color material, and there was a couple other variations. I can't remember anymore, but because of the serial numbers, we knew that mine was like in the 1200 range and his was something like the 800 range. So there was some time between manufacturer and, you know, something had changed. And like I say, there's also a Sewell version of this that I don't know if it's even a bayonet. It might just be a survival knife. Like, so essentially most of this without the bayonet portions, and that's made by the same company. And I'm not sure what kind of production numbers. Again, very rare to see one of those. And we've had a chance to get some pictures of those before. Well, lastly, there are some other things that are interesting about German stuff. At least for a while, we were able to get German replacement parts. I've seen CZ, I've seen Czechoslovakian VZ58 armorers kits. I've seen Russian armorers kits. I've heard of other armorers kits, but I've seen some German armorers kits. And these are the things that would go into an armorer's kit to repair AKs, or in this case, AK bayonets. So there's a couple of neat things that I was able to obtain just along the way. This is a scabbard, essentially a metal scabbard. We'll talk about this one in a second, but this type of scabbard with the rubber insulator and the metal, that's what's in here. If you feel it, you can feel that it's flat down here, and it's got the rubber insulator here. And then it says something in German here, Schleitzky Komplept, one stuck, and then Gitschtepack, some numbers, 1981. Then this one is a Type 2. So this one is the more polymer or fiberglass style. You can feel the ribs in it. You can feel that little nub. I should mention something about that in a second here. And then there's even a frog in here, if I remember right. Yeah, you can feel the frog in here, the leather part. And then it's all wrapped in like oil paper, sealed in this plastic. Again, it's got some labels on here, Schleide Komplum Plast. See, Plast and Klomplint. So that probably tells you what's in there. And then 81.3. So what's up with that? So maybe the same year? It's hard to know. I can't speak German. Secondly, we've got some of the wrist straps. So to replace these wrist straps, if somebody lost them or took them off, these are the green fabric type from 1979, I think. Frustrapen Mam Klappel, is I believe how the accurate German pronunciation of that is. Kind of neat though, sealed. There's a version of a desiccant pack in there, I believe. Or maybe, oh no, you know what that is? That's the little clampy dealies. That's a pack of these little clampy dealies. And next, I have an opened, a non-sealed, but at least at one point it was sealed. And this was a 25 pack of hangers. And I had friends that would take these hangers and strip them. They would turn them into German hangers or Romanian hangers or whatever country was necessary, and they would either stamp the leather or rework the leather to look like whatever leather it's supposed to look like, and then re-dye it and everything. So these German ones were inexpensive and available. You could get packs like this of 25. It's a really thick, decent, I think it's pig leather. So it allowed you to emulate all the other leathers, and either they would take apart this hardware and put it back together, or they would even take damaged other countries and use this as the pieces to put it back together. So one, be careful. There's lots of fake hangers out there made out of Germans. So get an idea of the German proportions. And if you see something that looks Russian, but it seems like it's the size or even the hardware from a German, well, you know what's up. You could just buy these things by the bag back in the day. Maybe they're still available. I'm guessing this is all Cold War stuff, but imagine somebody out there, you know, this leather was falling apart in the weather or in the cold, and this was a pack of 25 to help replace, troops that had damaged equipment. They called it Tregalegal Klimp Strigenwagler, 25 stuck. So again, you're welcome for the German lesson as well. Boom, that is the German collection. It's about to be divvied up. Everything that you see here in doubles is probably going to Pot of Gold Auctions. I'd like to thank them for giving us the chance to move the auction, with the auctions, to move our collections along to people who might be interested in completing theirs or starting theirs. And if we can answer questions, it's the goal with these videos. So if we can answer questions, let me know. Trying to archive or document these, the collection as it was before it was separated. It's been a lot of fun collecting them. We're going to see a couple of other countries kind of get separated up as we go along. If you're interested in any of these specifically that you don't see at auction, feel free to contact me. But otherwise, this has been the German Kalashnikov bayonets, my collection before it got separated out in 2022. Been a lot of fun to collect it. And, heck, we got Romanians, Yugoslavians, we've already done the Bulgarians, we got some Chinese to talk about, and plenty more. So we got much more to talk about. If you got questions, let us know. Played for Oh, I'm muted. So does this work? Can you hear me from back here? Can you hear a tiny mushroom burrito snoring? Imagine you're at a burrito store and no one ordered the mushroom burrito, and eventually you fell asleep. This is what it would sound like. I don't know if you're hearing me because I'm not getting any feedback. So I'm scared to bring this off the screen. Can I bring another one up? I'm going to try to bring another file up if that's possible, if I'm able, if it's doable. What I need to do is find it, though. I'm not actually finding it. Wait, did I find it? All right, well, it looks like I forgot one of the more important, more interesting things out. Okay, I think I found it. All right, well, it looks like I forgot one of the more important and more interesting things out of the German, and that is the German training bayonet. So this is a German
Can I interrupt myself while I'm
AK-47 training
talking?
bayonet. We've done some videos on it, and we'll link to those. But this is a full-size wooden dummy rifle. There's no moving parts at all. So I guess unless you count the sling as a moving part. On the end here is the bayonet connection, like a twist and attach. There's a pogo stick. It's just a little springy section with a big rubber kind of thing at the end. And the idea would to get a good solid grip on this and jam it into a post or a wall or something probably, and to build up the forearms and learn what it's like to get shin splints in your forearms from smashing bayonets into stuff. So if you've got any kind of bayonet drills in your past, you know what I'm talking about. This is bringing back some kind of horrible memories, but this is what the Germans would have used to practice jabbing one of these bayonets into us. Like I said, I've done some other videos. We'll link to that. But these are often found with their magazines either cut off completely or chopped in half, I guess, for shipping. And often you'll find, or sometimes I've found one before, you'll find the top of this thing, which, like I say, you kind of push down and pivot, and it'll kind of pull off of here. And you'll see sometimes, if you ever see one of these things laying around in a collection of AK stuff, now you know what it is. It's not a lightsaber or anything. It's a German bayonet trainer. At least the bayonet portion of it. We'll just block it back on there. And one last picture of all the German bayonets before they get separated.
Cool. Then it just ends right there, which is a pretty good still for the end of the thing. So, we went live for about a half an hour. That actually works pretty darn good. I could take the one video and the other video and combine them into this one live presentation, puts a watermark on there right away, and it puts a live audience out here to check it out while it's happening. Let's see if anybody said anything. We do have a mushroom burrito that nobody wanted that is sleeping right now. I don't want to wake him up. Well, he woke up. So Woods is out there driving and hopefully still listening. Just for you, I will rub this dog on the back of the head and give him a petting. Now he's uncomfortable, and now he's happy again. All right, there you go. And then MC also checking in. Thanks for being here. I put a couple of links in there. I'll be linking them up on the screen here. They're available at the Pot of Gold auctions. So we'll screen share. Actually, let me see if I can just do back and forth here. I'm kind of playing with this concept of sharing a video. It's a little different than what we normally do, which is about to be what I do right now. And we'll see if it deletes the stuff that no, it doesn't. Look at that. Interesting. So now I could potentially flip back and forth.
Well, it looks like I forgot one of the more.
It does start at the beginning of the video, though. So anyway, am I still here the whole time? I think so. So I'm going to bring this back. And what we've got is Pot of Gold auctions up in the Phoenix area. Has, like I said in the video, all the doubles that you saw in the video are up at Pot of Gold. So that includes the G36. I mean, the KM87, that survival one, is the rarest. You're not going to find those. There's only like something like 3,000 of them or something, or 1,000. I forget the number, but there's only a number of those. These, there's less of, and you're going to find fewer. I've only ever seen them from Walt before, and I know people know about them. So they, there's probably G36 collectors out there that want them or maybe have them. So as an AK collector, you don't see these very often. So grab it now if you're interested in owning a unique piece of the collection. So I imagine this would apply to German collectors or G36 collectors. Or let's say you have a channel called G36. Nobody would do that. That one's up there. We've got the Type 1, an AK type, or the AKM Type 1. I have two AKM Type 2s that are mislabeled AK-74s, but I don't think anybody's going to care. So these are the more modern AK bayonets for the AKM Type 2s. So think of folding stock AKs. Let's see, from Germany, they'd have that cool wire side folder. And then there's also this Type 2 that has a red handle. And these are, well, they're hard to get. I'm not going to say they're super rare because I see a lot of them in collections and stuff. They took me a while to get. I only ever got 2 of them. And I had to cheat and buy them off another collector because I could never find one in the wild. And then even, how when you buy something in a collection and then all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere? It wasn't even like that. I've never even seen these for sale. Just, I guess they're that rare, I guess. Like I said, I don't really look for them, though. Once I had them, I was done. Mine have 2 different belt loops, so this is the one with the shorter of the belt loops. Then I say, there's the black ones. Oh, no, this is the G36. Then there's these black ones. They've named them or labeled them AK-74s, but that's fine. These things can be confusing. People understand what we're talking about here. But this is a serialized set. When you get into collecting the variety, especially with things like German, there's not a heck of a lot of different models, but there is some variety in the way that their armory numbers are. I'm guessing these are inventory numbers, whatever they are. And then there's some that are remanufactured and have been reserialized. So there's those kind of variances, those kind of differences. And some people turn up their nose to that. Oh, that's not a difference. But when there's no physical difference aside from the size of the belt loop on them, then that becomes another difference in your collection, at least for me. So that's why I have a bunch of different, 5 of some sometimes. I think I mentioned in the video, these used to be super cheap also. All right, so that's the Type 1, and then the 2 Type 2s. There's also, wherever, I guess I don't have it linked here. I know here. AK-47. AK-47 Germans do have some variety. In fact, there's 5 varieties at this point. I think I have 3 of them, and they have to do with the scabbards mostly. I don't think there's any difference in the materials, although there might be because I don't have them all. Mostly it has to do with these bands, these little straps. Let me zoom in. these little straps that hold the, really they're just the loops that hold the canvas to the scabbard. The way that the loops are attached to the scabbard is either kind of wrapped like this and spot welded, or they're a different shape and they're spot welded. So it's just a matter of probably how tedious it was to, and the number of parts involved. So here's what I suspect. The Germans said, oh, the Russians came along and said, you there, make exactly what we want. And the Germans were like, yes, sir. And then they started making exactly what the Russians wanted. And then they went, you know what? We can add more parts to this. Why don't we take these loops, which is one part, and make it two parts? And everybody went, oh yeah, we can definitely make two parts out of that instead of one. And that's pretty much what they did. So I think that's what happened. And then you got your granddaddy of all of them, that G36. So the deal with the G36 is it's a different gun, right? The G36 is some other gun, but they had all these AK bayonets laying around, and that's why I think the red ones were first and the black ones were after, because otherwise these would be red, right? So these were laying around, and they were like, what are we going to do with them? Why don't we put a bigger ring on them, because it's a different gun. I imagine that you must use the same other attachment point. And then they gave them these cool canvas frogs or holders with a clip on it. So they still intended the user to take it off of your belt with the clip. That's why there's these like little dangly clips on all the AK bayonets. They expected you to take the whole thing off of your belt. So they wanted your frog to stay on the belt, right? Leave your belt on, but disconnect the scabbard from the belt with some kind of a little fragile clip. Then take the scabbard and the knife apart from each other, hook them together as a big wire cutter, and now you can go around cutting barbed wire, I guess. So they wanted you to be able to take the scabbard off of your belt, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to use this thing as a pliers, as a wire cutter. So that was a necessary part of all our design feature of all of the Kalashnikov Type 2, Type 1, and then pretty much everything after the AK-47s, the AKMs, the Type 2s, and then the AK-74 bayonets, the true AK-74 bayonets. Here's the deal. Germany never had an AK-74 bayonet, so that's why these are doubly labeled wrong. They're not only labeled incorrectly because they're not labeling them what they are, but they're labeled something that doesn't exist. There is no such thing as an AK-74 German bayonet, because they never made an AK-74. But they did make this G36, and I think it's a 223. I have no idea what this. I'm trying to think. Let's go find out what a G36 is. Oh, it's that gun. So it's that gun. Some kind of gun where they're like, you know what we should make? A giant lunchbox handle and then make a gun underneath of it. Yeah, so it's 5.56. I guess it's, do they even have one? Let me put G36 bayonet. Oh, there you go, bayonet. World of Bayonets has one. Here's a bunch of mine. This is the new one, a Bunderweiser one, and this is a more common version of German bayonet that you see out there. Very inexpensive also for a little while. And I was hoping to see one on a rifle. I don't really see very many pictures. I don't know why nobody puts pictures of rifles up with bayonets on them or not. All right, so with that, I think we'll close this one down. Nobody's really asking any questions, but I do like this format, so stay tuned for more of this as things go up to auction, especially when they're of, similar like this, all Germans. Then we'll be posting this type of video to present what they are, give you a little more insight, and then let you know when the auctions are happening. Oh, I guess I am in the middle of reading some comments, so I'll go ahead and read some of these. I guess I should have mentioned there's also an auction up there for this, which is one of each of the two types of scabbard. One of the Type 1 scabbards made out of metal with a rubber insulator, and then the other one is a Type 2 insulated scabbard that's made out of like that don't know what it is. I think it's called polyamide. It's not really, well, it's definitely not Bakelite, but it's also not like Kydex or anything. It's some plastic from the 80s. It's really strong, but anyway, it's a black German polymer, and then 3 different frogs, which lets you populate a couple of bayonets you might have, or like I said in the video, a lot of people like these to use as like sacrificial. They'll take the gray off of it with some kind of treatment, and then they'll do something, treat the leather somehow, either stamp it or smush it or retool it, even trim it, and then stain it to whatever color it needs to be. But I've seen these things turned into every different kind of type of hanger out there. All right, so that's the last auction, and then we actually do have a couple of other auctions. We've got a taser, an old taser that I had laying around. I mean, everybody's got a couple of tasers hanging around. So I have a yellow taser up there. It's already at $100. You know, it's good to go. It's still in the package. I've been using my taser in a while. This was my backup to my taser, and I haven't used my own taser, so I don't need the backup anymore. We also have what you would call a Chicom set. And if I can open this up in a new window, it would be a chest band or bandolier, whatever that thing's called, to hold a whole bunch of, what does it hold, 10 times 220 SKS stripper clips, or they hold 3? They might hold 3. So it might hold 60 rounds. No. How many that is? 10 times 3 of 10. So 10 times 30, 300 rounds. I guess it can hold that many. And an old stock, which I was going to use and I never did, and a bayonet. If anybody needs bayonets, I hear people talk about needing bayonets every once in a while for an SKS. I do have a slew of those. They're the only other bayonets I really have. I just happen to have a slew of them. I was going to use them for something I never did. So they're complete with the screw, the spring, the little thingy thing that goes on the muzzle, I guess, and then the spike itself. Anyway, that set is over at Pot of Gold Auction and is right now, oops, where'd it go? It is right now at $40 for that whole set. Pretty good deal. MC's working on the house. I hear that. I need to get out, and my house has got wood on it, and it's Arizona, so the wood that's in the sun definitely needs to have some, work applied to it, some time given to it, and then some new paint stuck on it. But I am many dollars away from doing stuff like that. But understand completely. Keep your investment taken care of, right? All right. Well, with that, I see Chicago Mike's out there. Good afternoon. Just catching the end of this one. I got skipped down. I'm seeing, let's see, I dream of one day having a German brown handle. If you're talking that red one, that one is up there. It's only $20 right now. I'd like to get one from an Enfield. I might have an Enfield bayonet now that I say it. Is that the spiky one that looks kind of like the letter L? I have a couple of those that I was using as a bookend, which I might be able to part with. I don't know what they're worth right now. I think that's everybody's questions that came in. Thanks again for giving me some feedback on the volume. It was first time I'm using this this thing.
More interesting things out of the year is
to share a video. So it worked out pretty good. So if I leave this thing muted, will it stay muted? Oh, it did. Good. So I could just leave these things muted and skip back and forth. It's actually pretty neat. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to say thanks again to the people that are joining us live. If you're listening to this in the future, we did have links. I'll have links in the description of the video. There's links in the side chat as we were going along, and this will be posted other places. I'll attempt to include links where I can, but otherwise head over to Pot of Gold Auctions pretty much every Tuesday. I mean, there's times they're humans, so they have time off and they give the staff time off once in a while, but pretty much every Tuesday there's a live auction over there, and they're a lot of fun. They're a hoot, as we used to say, to just check out. There's lots of good deals over there, lots of fun times. We'll host live watch parties, especially when our stuff is up there. So stay tuned on Tuesday. We'll probably go live and see what kind of response the bayonets get this week, or this auction, I guess. These that we talked about in last part of the video, these auctions all end in a couple of days, 3 days. So that'll be Tuesday. Like I say, join us for that. Otherwise, check out our store. We'll close on a commercial to our Gear website store. It's where we sell all kinds of cool stuff, books, 3D printed stuff. We've been adding some things like calendars and posters to the mix, things that try to inform and educate, but in a interesting way, right? Now, I'm not going to go around and say they're the most useful or the most interesting art you're ever going to see or the most interesting posters out there. But for something like a range or something like a wall in a gun shop or something, they're hopefully something, if you're waiting in line to do something or waiting to, before somebody can do something before you can do what you want to do, think of all those times when you can have a poster to keep your eyes interested. And if they can inform you instead of just doing nothing, then that's what they're for. Think about being in a classroom at a CCW or something class where, you're going to be looking around the classroom at stuff, and how often can you look at a perfect sight alignment poster before you go insane? So my wall art is designed to, give classrooms and shops and ranges, and hopefully some museums will actually buy our stuff. Something to offer that's, like I say, something for you to be entertained, but also informed and inspired. Hopefully we give you just enough insight in some of these posters. We have a poster on the rifles of the 7.62 by 39. Hopefully that gets you out there to discover how many guns were chambered for some Russian, intermediate cartridge. We've got a poster with a bunch of maps of Second Amendment issues and rights and infringements. And again, something if you're waiting in line somewhere, or you're just got the time to stare at a poster, lots of insight there. It's just the accumulation of our projects displayed in different ways to get concepts and awareness out into real life. And that's the kind of stuff we build over there. It's not stuff that makes you chuckle or makes you divided against somebody else who they're trying to get you to hate. I don't want to lean into that. I'd rather do the opposite. So if you're interested in promoting stuff like that and supporting it, check out our store. We'll have a commercial for it here. There's usually links below each of our videos where you can grab something from our store directly or from one of the print-on-demand places with some of our designs. We've got a couple of different bayonet designs. If you're here for the bayonets, check out some of our shirts that have bayonet designs on them. We get usually $5 from each of those, and we use that to pay bills. We do appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Until next time. Thanks for watching.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice once a month, and carry every day.
Thank you for watching GunWebsites.com.